Only 2 months ago, Festo debuted 2 new feats of biomimicry with the Bionic flying fox and a Bionic rolling spider. The Fox is a semi-autonomous aircraft modeled after a giant, terrifying fruit bat with a 7.5-foot wingspan. And the spider, also known as the Bionic wheelbot, tucks its legs in so that it can roll over the ground instead of walking. Equally terrifying. Now, the mad geniuses at Festo have created an autonomous underwater robot inspired by the Cuttlefish. The robot is called the BionicFinWave, and it is shown here navigating a series of water-filled pipes, and also a testament to the company's inability to name anything cool. BionicFinWave. It's a robot cuttlefish. Jesus! Flying fox, and then you're like, BionicFinWave thing. Come on! Like the cuttlefish, the BionicFinWave uses its fins to generate a continuous wave that propels the underwater robot forward. The robot can wirelessly transmit data as well. For example, it has onboard sensors that can take temperature and pressure measurements, as well as make sure that it doesn't run into walls. The side fins are cast from silicone and don't have any support elements. They're fastened to 9 small 3D printed lever arms that are driven by a pair of servo motors in the robot's body. So, when it needs to turn, the outer fin moves faster than the inner one. And when it needs to move up and down, a third servo motor controls the robot head. Most of the body was 3D printed. In fact, the crankshafts, joints, and the connecting rod are made out of a single piece of 3D printed plastic. The BionicFinWave and similar concepts could soon show up in inspection and measuring applications. Perhaps they could even be enlisted to help cleanup efforts following the Fukushima disaster. Similar robots have been used, but most of them have failed due to high levels of radiation. Robot fish, boom. This week, the US Patent Office granted the 10 millionth patent. The honor went to a Raytheon engineer for a laser radar data system that can collect speed and distance information in real time. Patent number 10 million went to Joe Marin, PhD, an optical engineer at Raytheon who applied for the patent back in 2015. Marin holds more than 20 patents, including his first in 1991 for a new type of bifocal lenses. His latest invention improves laser radar to use reflected light to measure speed and distance to identify and track objects. A problem with large laser sensors is that they create an enormous amount of data to process, which makes it hard to create a picture of what they're seeing. To get that information faster, Marin redesigned the laser radar to work like a digital camera. He spread the data out across many pixels. In essence, it's just a form of data compression, and it could have a huge impact on autonomous cars and how the AI sees objects and makes decisions. After Raytheon was founded in 1922, its first invention was a vacuum tube that made it easier to run home radios with a wall socket rather than large batteries. We've come a long way. We wanted to take a moment and recognize some of the notable patents that have changed the world.
I will remember you. Will you remember me? Don't let your life pass you by.
Here's to the next 10 million. I'm sure they're all gonna be as important as the 10 million before them. You know, I wonder what number they gave bike balls. Space Harpoon. In 1967, Sputnik was the only man-made object in orbit that was large enough to be tracked. Now, there is 6,800 tons of space debris in low Earth orbit, 23,000 tracked objects traveling about 18,000 miles per hour, all that are a threat to other space objects. The trash includes everything from destroyed spacecraft and old rocket stages. The mass is actually the equivalent of the Eiffel Tower. A joint venture that includes Airbus and the University of Surrey in England has created Remove Debris, a low-cost R&D satellite that could be the solution for the great landfill in the sky that poses a constant threat to space stations and other satellites. Remove Debris, which deployed this month and has the most straightforward name you'll ever hear, will be managed by the university's Space Center. It will test 4 different methods for active debris removal: a giant fishing net, a harpoon, a drag sail, and a vision-based nav system. What I find interesting is that the experiment won't actually try to catch pieces of the 6,800 tons already in the sky. Instead, it's going to fire out its own space junk and then try and capture it. So, if all goes wrong, we'll have 23,004 track pieces of space rubbish. The net concept is pretty straightforward. In September, a CubeSat will deploy from the main vessel, which will then fire a giant net at it from 7 meters away. They'll both then come crashing down and burn up upon re-entry. In October, the vision-based nav system will deploy a CubeSat that will relay its position to the main craft before it comes down and burns up in the atmosphere. The measurements will hopefully lead to new rendezvous techniques with space debris. So, I mean, really, it's just kinda fire it out there and see what happens to it. Oh, that's how it went down. Yeah, now we know how to catch it. The harpoon is pretty simple as well. They're going to shoot a 5-foot harpoon about 45 miles per hour at a target around sometime in March 2019. The hope is that, they hit it, grab it, and then drag it down to the atmosphere. So, don't miss? The problem is, if it misses, the harpoon is just gonna keep flying through space and eventually spear something. Finally, the removed debris will actually be the fourth and final experiment. After performing all planned tests, the spacecraft will deploy a drag sail that will force the craft to deorbit in 8 weeks. This process typically takes about 2.5 years. The concept could be designed into future satellites to drag them out of the sky after their missions have been completed. But where do you think that harpoon's gonna wind up? You know they're gonna miss, and she's going sailing up to kill something. There is nothing more technologically advanced than the space harpoon. I'm David Manti. This is Engineering by Design. Yeah! Yeah! And fire! Nuts! Fire? We get it?